Hoboken is home to hundreds of fancy restaurants, bars, and luxury apartments. The city is still famous for two things. One of the first recorded baseball games was played there in 1846, and it is the hometown of Frank Sinatra. There are parks and streets all over Hoboken named in Frank's honor. Frank lived with his mother and father, Martin Sinatra, in a cold-water apartment on Monroe Street. This meant that the apartment had a sink that ran only cold water. To take a hot shower, they had to use a bathroom shared with other families in the building. Dolly was a tough, outspoken woman. She worked as a chocolate dipper in a local candy factory. She was also a midwife, someone who helps deliver babies. When she wasn't working, Dolly sang at weddings and family events and sometimes even at restaurants. As loud as Dolly could be, Martin Sinatra was quiet and shy. He listened to what Dolly told him to do, and mostly he did it. Martin was a boxer when Frank was born. When Frank was older, his father became a firefighter. Dolly's and Martin's families both came to the United States from Italy. They were very proud of their Italian roots. Frank grew up to be a proud Italian-American, too. When Frank was a child in Hoboken, there were Italian, Irish, Jewish, German, and black neighborhoods. Frank's family lived in the Italian neighborhood. Frank tried to get along with everybody. Sometimes, kids called one another mean names based on what race or religion they were. Not Frank. He didn't think race or religion mattered. He thought people were just people. "Something rubbed me the wrong way," Frank said about the name-calling when he was older. Frank did have a temper, though. Sometimes kids called him Scarface because of the scars left from his difficult birth. Frank did not like that at all. Once, after this happened, he marched to the home of the doctor who had delivered him. He had planned to yell at him for causing the scars. Luckily, the doctor wasn't home at the time. Frank's mother and father worked a lot, so Frank's grandparents often watched him. But when Frank's parents were around, they spoiled their son. Most families in Hoboken had a lot of kids. The Sinatras had only Frank. They bought him nice clothes and toys. Kids in his neighborhood called him Slacksy because he seemed to have a new pair of pants for every day of the week. He also was one of the few kids in his lower-income neighborhood who had his own bicycle. "Being an only child made all the difference," said one of Frank's neighbors. "He didn't have to share with brothers and sisters. He even had his own bedroom. None of the rest of us had half of what he had." In 1926, when Frank was 11, his mother and father opened a bar. They called it Marty O'Brien's. They used an Irish name because Hoboken was filled with Irish immigrants. They thought they would get more customers that way. Frank spent a lot of time at the bar as a kid. The bar had a self-playing piano. Sometimes, Frank would stand on top of the piano and sing along with the tune, performing for the customers. Sometimes, he would receive tips for his singing, and that made Frank very happy. Chapter 2. On the Rise. As Frank grew up, he continued to sing. He performed with his school and church choirs. When Frank wasn't singing, he listened to the radio. In the days before television, families tuned into the radio to be entertained. He also went to see others perform live. Once, he heard a singer named Bing Crosby. Bing sang quietly. He let the microphone carry his voice around the room. Frank had never heard a singer do this before. Frank saw Bing Crosby as his first idol because he sang so easily. He thought Bing was so relaxed and casual. Frank loved to sing at his school's dances. What he didn't love, though, was actually going to school. As a teenager in A.J. Demarest High School in Hoboken, Frank didn't do his homework. He skipped school often, and when he was there, he sometimes got in trouble for pulling pranks. One time, during an assembly, he released pigeons in the auditorium. Bing Crosby, 1903 to 1977. Harry Lillis Bing Crosby was an American singer, actor, and comedian. The most famous song he ever sang was White Christmas, the best-selling single of all time. It has sold more than 50 million copies all over the world. Bing grew up in Spokane, Washington. His nickname came from his favorite comic strip, the Bingville Bugle. Bing's family was musical. He started singing and playing the drums while in college at Gonzaga University in Spokane. Bing sang like he was having a private conversation with one person. Many of his songs were slow, simple ones called ballads. He also starred in many popular